Namo Om Krishna Prasad Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Devi Gauri Prasade Nirvisesanya Vaishnavasati Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Saurabha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Upon request, this is a discussion. And it's complicated, first and foremost. If you don't understand it, quite okay, because it's complicated. Understand, this is very complicated. And second is there are names for Lord Shiva that cover a wide range of application. So if you're on this name like Shambhu, or Sankarshan, Shiva, or Rudra, or any of the other names, it's got to be in a bucket for you, then you're going to be a very unhappy person because that's not how it works. So you all like yoga, so get flexible because it's going to be quite flexible with the nomenclature. The main foundation of this discussion is going to be two verses, and the first of those verses, what we'll see this evening, and that first verse that we'll be focusing on is verse number 43, where it describes Devi Dham, above that Mahesh Dham, above that Hari Dham, above that Goloka Dham. It's one verse, text 43. And then I think what I'll do is, because it takes a long time to go through all that, tomorrow evening we'll study 43 and Brahma Samhita. Here's the first Samhita. If you like, and say it together. Isha Parashna Satyavigra Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So Sarva Karana Karanam has to do with causation. Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the Karana of all Karanams. He's the cause of causes. And so the focus is going to the Supreme Controller, Paramoksha. He's the controller. He's known in this Samhita verses as so Krishna and Govinda are the same, but it's very specific. That name of Krishna, who is being the Brahma Samhita. Here's the translation. Krishna, who is known as the Supreme Godhead, he, the origin of all origin, and he's the prime cause of all Karanam. Before, it's understood by Jiva Goswami, it's the commentary, is the Paribhasha Sutra. Paribhasha, you all know the meaning of sutra. Sutra is a little code, short aphorism, short statement. It's the Paribhasha, or it's the principal utterance. That's one way to say what Paribhasha is. That governs all the rest of the entire book. There's rules about what a Paribhasha Sutra is, where is it found, etc. And Jiva Goswami explains this verse governs the meanings of all the other verses. Paribhasha. So that means anything else that's in this text, including our topic, Shiva Tattva, we're to understand that Krishna is the cause of all causes. So Lord, things caused, from the cause of all causes. Shiva is connected to Krishna or Govinda. Now the connection, so this sentence that just disappeared from the screen, is taken from the fifth Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, and it's making a statement. Whenever the scriptures describe the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as non-different from Krishna, pure devotees understand this to be because of their being the most beloved of Lord Krishna. Now, I'm making a point because as we're going along, there are descriptions that speak of Lord Shiva being different, non-different, and simultaneously different and non-different. So, those of you that came a little bit late, this is a very subtle subject matter. To Mataji, I said it's a 301 class, not a 101 class or 201 class. It's up there. So if you don't understand everything, it's quite okay, because you probably won't understand everything, because it's a little complicated, because Shiva Tattva is complicated. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it is said there's two subject matters that are most difficult. Shiva Tattva is one of them, and that's our topic for tonight. And the other is Guru Tattva. It's not so straightforward. So just like this verse, that Guru or Shiva are now different from Krishna, here's how we should understand that. It's because of their being most beloved of Krishna. Now, moving on. The verse that we'll be focusing on this evening is text 43. The translation of all of this is given by Bhaktisiddhanta, whose language is also very elevated. And he has called this one the gradations of realms. And then of those gradations of realms, it goes through them. Devidam, Maheshdam, Haridam, and then others. Anantashesh, Mahavishnu's breath, Brahma, Ganesh, Govinda, the basic of the cosmic elements, and Suryadev. So don't worry about all of them. They're in a section. Gradations of realms is the first one. And that's what we're going to be focusing on this evening. All of this was just to lay the groundwork for what we're going to be doing for the next hour and 40 minutes. It's long, it's involved. Again, some of you came a little bit later, so I'll say it again. There's nomenclature about Lord Shiva that one term, one name, like Rudra, Shambhu, Sankarshan, and Lord Shiva, and different names. Don't put it in a bucket, because that's not how it works. One term can mean different things depending upon context. So if you're stuck on the binary processor way of looking at things, if this name means this, then this name can't mean that. You're going to be an unhappy camper, because one name can mean many different things depending upon the context. Get ready, because it's going to go forward like that. Here's text 43, and I have a little recording. This is Mahatma singing. He sang the whole Govinda prayers. Tasya
Govindari Krishna Mahapajani Govindari Krishna Mahapajani
We'll take a quick look at the Sanskrit. Goloka Namni, the Namni, the name of Govinda's abode is Goloka. Nija Dhamni, that's his own abode. Nija means his own abode. Tale means below that region, there's others. Devidam, Maheshdam, Haridam, and each have their potencies invested in them, respective to their particular region, and those potencies are all coming from Govinda. So it's a hierarchy. The commentary says that Brahma is speaking this verse looking up. He's in the Devi Dham realm. He's looking up, Mahesh Dham, Hari Dham, and the topmost is Goloka Dham. And his statement is that each of these dhams or realms they're invested with potencies derived from Govinda because he's the source of everything. That's the Paribhasa Sutra from the very, very beginning, for those of you who came in a little late. Sarva Karana Karanam. Govinda is the Karana of all Karanas. He's the cause of all causes and effects. So Govinda is the cause of these realms. Govinda is the cause of the various potencies or capacities that each of these realms have. So here's some pictures of those realms. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham. That's our place, the mundane world. Next above it is what our focus is, Mahesh Dham. So look at the this is a poster, or it's a photograph of a poster, and you see that yellow arrow that's pointing towards the middle. Down at the bottom, that's Devi Dham, that's the universe. Above that, in that white region, is between the universe and Haridham. There you see the abode of Lord Shiva. Can you see it clearly? And then above Lord Shiva's abode is the Brahma Jyoti. And then above the Brahma Jyoti is the spiritual planets. Above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. And the refrain, I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. So there's gradations of potencies in those different realms, and our focus is primarily going to be placed upon Mahesh Dham. Mahesh is another name of Lord Shiva. So here's the essence. Each of these, what Bhaktisiddhanta has called graded realms, is invested with appropriately graded powers and opulence via the potency of the Supreme Lord Govinda. And then he writes, the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his own direct and indirect power, has constituted those respective potencies of those realms. So here's another image of those respective realms. And you can't see it so well because the letters are really small. But I'm going to use my laser pointer and show you. Here's, on this margin is Devi Dham. Above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham. Above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham. And above Hari Dham is Goloka Dham. That's what the verse is saying, text 43. You can't see it because the letters are really small. But down here is one universe. We're going to see a blown up image of this. This is the bottom half of one universe is the Garbhodak ocean. And resting on Garbhodak ocean is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is resting on Anantashesh, and there's Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And from the navel, we'll see a close-up. from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu comes a stem, and then there's Lord Brahma at the top of that stem. Well, this is a little bit, let's see, this is a little bit better. There's the Garbhodak ocean, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Anantashesha, who he's resting upon, the 14 planetary systems, the names are there. At the topmost is Lord Brahma. And Maheshtam is beyond this, but look closely and you'll see there's coverings, 7 in number. 7 coverings, or it's sometimes called shells, like a coconut. Inside a coconut is coconut water. And then there's a little space inside their coconut also. And then there's a shell. The shell of the universe has 7 layers. And the very last of those 7 layers is, the material elements. And beyond it, just inside the material elements, it says false ego. Can you see? Just see where the laser pointer is pointing to. The reason I'm pointing to this is one of the 8 abodes of Lord Shiva. One of the 8 abodes of Lord Shiva is this one. It's the 6th of the 7 coverings, and he resides, one of his residences is there, and the personification of false ego, I've never seen a picture of personification of false ego, but there's a personification of false ego in that layer, and that personification of false ego is worshiping a form of Lord Shiva known as Sankarshan. So that's one of his 8 abodes. So remember this because it's going to come up later. Now, look up here, and there you see the word Shambhu, and Shambhu is going to be described by Bhaktisiddhanta as a halo. It's halo because it's effulgent. This Shambhu, one of the meanings of the name Shambhu, one of the principal names of meanings of Shambhu is the glance of Mahavishnu. See, there's Mahavishnu. Where's Mahavishnu? He is in the Karana ocean or causal ocean. It's also called the Viraja River. Viraja River, by the way. It's a place where it's neither here nor there. It's not in the spiritual world, not in the material world. It's the place where those who want to become void, the Buddhists, where they may go. It's neither here nor there, Loka. It's the river Viraja, or the Karana ocean. Is the ocean upon which Mahavishnu resides. Now, notice coming from the eyes of Mahavishnu, this is his glance, and there's a whole section in Brahma Samhita about the glance. And here's the glance. You notice it has light, and that where's that light extending towards? It's extending towards, in the drawing, or in the poster here, it's Durga. And that glance, that's a light, that's Shambhu. See Lord Shiva riding on Nandi, the bull. And here, the Sanskrit, just above that laser pointer, is Shambhu. So that's another one of the residences or abodes of Lord Shiva. So far, we've seen 2. Now we're going to see a third one. Look up here. So this is meant to represent the cloud of the material energy. In the portion of the vast spiritual sky, there's a cloud of material energy called Mahatattva, just above the laser pointer. Mahatattva. That's where we are. That's in this Devi Dham realm. Devi Dham. And in between, there's this Maheshtam region, and there's 2. It looks like a sphere, looks like a sun. That's called Shivaloka. just above the laser pointer, it says Shivaloka. Just below the laser pointer, it says Mahakala Dham. Mahakala means time. So what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita about time? Time, I am the destroyer of all things. Mahakala Dham happens to be one of the abodes of Lord Shiva because he also assists in the destruction activities of material nature. So Mahakala is one of his dhams, Mahakala Dham. And above is Sadashivaloka. And we haven't done the rest yet. But so the attempt in this evening class is describe what's in Brahma Samhita about Mahesh Dham and then expand it a little bit. Again, look at the margin on the left side. In that big poster, there's Devi Dham. Above that is Mahesh Dham. Above that is Hari Dham. And above Hari Dham is Goloka Dham. That's the hierarchy. And this is text 43 of Brahma Samhita. Here's from Bhaktisiddhanta's purport. Just get ready for difficult language. But next, above Devi Dham is located Shiva Dham, one portion of which is called Mahakala Dham. That's that dark sphere towards the top of Mahesh Dham, enveloped in darkness, semicolon, interpenetrating this portion of Shiva Dham, there shines Sadashivaloka, full of great light. So here's a blow up or a magnified picture of what we just heard. On the far right, that's Mahavishnu or Karana Dakshayi Vishnu, same. There's this light coming from his eyes, that's his glance. That glance is Shambhu. And what's he glancing upon? He's glancing upon Pradhan. What's Pradhan? Pradhan is the unmanifested state of material nature or Prakriti. So by glancing upon Pradhan, it's the primordial impregnation. Bhaktisiddhanta's difficult language calls it the masculine generative organ. So in material life, masculine generative organ means something. In the process of creation, it means Shambhu, or a feature of Lord Shiva that's like light. It's like a halo, not exactly light, but like a halo. It's the glance of Mahavishnu. Then you'll see the letters are pretty clear. Just above Shambhu, or Lord Shiva riding on Nandi, there's Mahakala Dham, and there's Sadashivaloka, and they're connected. It's just on the upper boundary of Mahesh Dham. Now down below is the coverings of the universe. There's 7. This particular drawing just says false ego. The one that we saw before, it says false ego. The personality of false ego worships a form of Lord Shiva, Sankarshan. I'm repeating just so that hopefully by repetition it becomes a little more clear. And one of Srila Prabhupada's first books, the second book that Prabhupada left his household ashram at the age of 56. And in 2 years later, he began to reside, in 1958, he began to reside in Vrindavan. He rented a room in a very small place, very small room in a very small place near Keshigat. Some of you have been to Vrindavan, or if you haven't been, you will be one day, go to Vrindavan. It's along the banks of the river Jamuna. It's a little remote, but near the downtown of Vrindavan town. And in that place, he wrote Easy Journey to Other Planets. That was 1961. Easy Journey to Other Planets was written responsive to the space exploration program of Russia and of the US. So then from that, Prabhupada would always speak about Sputniks, which was the Russian name of sending ships to try to go to the moon. So he sometimes got Apollo craft, but usually it was Sputnik. So during that period of time, he wrote this book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, which was, of a spiritual perspective on, rather than spending billions and billions of dollars trying to go to a place where you can't stay, one can go there just by yoga. Easy Journey to Other Planets. You don't need billions and billions of dollars, and it doesn't blow up sometimes. So he wrote about going to other planets through that book. It's now a BBT publication. The second book that he wrote was in 1962, 1 year later. And the second book that he wrote started in January, because I gave a whole seminar on this topic, Light of the Bhagavad. Here's a little background on the book. And it'll take us into this subject right here. Prabhupada, while he had begun translating Srimad Bhagavatam, simultaneously he had begun, revived Bhaktisiddhanta's writing by Back to Godhead magazine. He started in 1960, 61, 62, and he would sometimes shuttle back and forth between Vrindavan and Delhi to sell his magazine, preach Krishna consciousness, take subscriptions for his magazine, etc. So he had to have maintenance because he had nothing. When he left home, he took nothing with him. He left all the wealth with his sons and his wife and his family, and he just literally gave them everything. And so he had nothing, materially speaking. So one of those visits, a person who he had made an acquaintance with gave him a pamphlet. And the pamphlet was an English promotion for an event that was going to take place later in May of 1962 in Japan. The event was a very nebulous sounding event, Conference for the Elevation of the Human Spirit. Very euphemistic sounding, not a lot of definition of what that meant. Prabhupada was intrigued. He was focused on the mission that was given to him by his spiritual master to go to the English-speaking parts of the world. And here's this promotion for an event in Japan that's going to be in English. So he wrote the promoter and gave an idea of what he would like to be a participant in this event. And he would need a visa and a passport. So please give me the necessary documentation. He got it. There's a copy of that letter. And so Prabhupada then began a project in communication with the organizer of this event that he would write a book for that particular audience on that particular topic. The topic was elevation of the human spirit, or cultivation of the human spirit. So he decided that people in the Far East, they have a cultural tendency to understand lessons of life from nature. Taking that paradigm, he selected a chapter from Canto 10, Chapter 20, called the monsoon and the autumn season. It's just a description of Vrindavan, what is it like during the rainy season, what it's like after the rainy season. So it's scenes of nature, chapter 20. So he took scenes of nature and taught lessons. He basically gave a summary of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam in a little book that was 48 verses long. Extracting from one chapter from Canto 10, scenes of nature, and explaining the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very masterful, very masterful. So one of those verses, towards the end, verse 47 out of 48, he's now speaking a little bit about cosmology. And here's what he writes. Mahesh Dham, right? Devi Dham, Mahesh Dham, Haridham, Goloka Dham. Mahesh Dham is the marginal place between Haridham and Devi Dham. The impersonalists who want to merge into the existence of the transcendence are placed within Mahesh Dham. Now, when I read this, because I was teaching this as a seminar, it was whiplash, because my understanding prior to reading this was those who are impersonalists who want to merge into the existence of transcendence, they go to the Brahmajyoti. That's our common understanding, isn't it? Yes. And Prabhupada is writing something different. So it's not a mistake. So that's why all the question marks. What's going on here? So we'll touch on the topic. This is the translation of Bhaktisiddhanta's verse. Above Devi Dham is located, commentary. Above Devi Dham is located Shiva Dham, one portion of which, called Mahakala Dham, is enveloped in darkness. Remember that sphere towards the top end of Mahesh Dham? That's called Mahakala Dham, is enveloped in darkness, semicolon. Interpenetrating this portion of Shiva Dham, there shines the Sadashiva Loka full of great light. Then, above the same appears Haridham, or the transcendental Vaikuntha Loka. Now he goes back. The potency of Devi Dham, in the form of extension of Maya, so Devi Dham is Maya's expanded in the form of Devi Dham, and that of Shiva Loka, notice the color is different, consisting of time, space, and matter, are the potency of the separated particles, that means jivas. Bhaktisiddhanta's language, you need a dictionary and you have to unpack it. It's just the way he writes. But the potency of the separated particles, and then comes the part that's hard to chew, pervaded by the penumbral reflection of the subjective portion of the divinity. So let's break it apart. When he uses subjective portion, what does that mean? It means Vishnu Tattva expansions in the spiritual world. Subjective portions. You're squinting. It's his language. So I'm taking his language, and because it's his language, and explaining what does he mean. He means the forms in Vaikuntha. They're subjective portions. Narayana in Vaikuntha is his subjective portion. It's an expansion. The object is Krishna, the subject of expansion. Prabhupada calls it plenary expansions. We're used to that term. Plenary means complete. That's easy. So Prabhupada changed from subjective portion to plenary expansions. It's interchangeable terms. So the forms of the Lord in Haridham, they're, in his language, they're this subjective portions, but the lords of Haridham. So what's in this Shiva Loka? That's what we're after. Shiva Loka, consisting of time, space, and matter, are the potency of the separated particles. That's jivas, separated particles. So there's the whole and there's the separated parts. The jivas, pervaded by the penumbral reflection of the forms of Narayan and Vaikuntha, or the plenary expansions. So what's a penumbral Some of you went to 8th grade science class, so you know what an umbra and penumbra are. This is a little review. There's a source of light on the left, and it's being, the source of light is being projected onto that surface where it's all white light. But where there's an object in between, it casts an umbra and a penumbra. And the umbra is where it's just the direct rays of that light, but then there's some that's not completely, the penumbra section, it's marginal. Putting in really simple language, he already said it, it's marginal. The position of Lord Shiva in that upper realm, it's marginal. It's neither here nor there. It's not of the jivas. It's not of the forms of Vishnu. It's a marginal position. Lord Shiva is in the marginal position. It's like the penumbral reflection. It's neither here nor there. Should I go back and read it again? Okay. At the bottom. So this Mahakaladam, we'll go back this one. Mahakaladam, there you see Mahakaladam. Up here, Mahakaladam. That's up here. So now he's going to describe Mahakaladam, and he's going to use a slightly different term for Mahakaladam, and he's going to call it, no, there it is, Mahakaladam. Above Devi Dham is located Shiva Dham, that's that big light portion, one portion of which, called Mahakaladam, is enveloped in darkness, semicolon. Interpenetrating this portion of Shiva Dham, that's that bright light at the top, there shines Sadashiva Loka, full of great light. So there's enveloped in darkness portion, there's the great light portion, and it's the whole thing is Mahakaladam. Next, above the same appears Haridam, or the transcendental Vaikuntha Loka. So it's neither Devi Dham, nor is Vaikuntha Dham, it's in between. The potency of Devi Dham, that's at the bottom, in the form of the extensions of Maya, that's the creations of Maya, that's where we are. And that of Shiva Loka, so that was that bright light at the top, consisting of time, space, and matter, are, both these, Devi Dham and Shiva Dham, are the potency of the separated particles, that's jivas, pervaded by the penumbral reflection of the subjective portion. And this is the penumbral reflection. It's neither here nor there. So there, Lord Shiva predominates, and there's living entities that may go there. And we heard back in Light of the Bhagavad, who goes there? Well, one of the persons who goes there are aspiring transcendentalists who worship Lord Shiva, but they do not have a full understanding of Haridam, nor even of the Brahmajyoti, but they're given liberation in this realm, this penumbral realm, or the Mahakaladam. Stay tuned, we're going to hear some more as we go forward. I warned you, this is the 301 class. But you wanted it. So here it comes. Now, the next image is, down the light at the bottom is Sadashiva Loka. And above Sadashiva Loka, you can't see it so well, but it says Brahmajyoti. And so now, over on the left margin, there's Mahakaladam, Mahesh Dham, and above that is Haridam. So all of this is Haridam. It has a quadrant and has different places in the quadrant. And I want you to notice up here, where is it? Yeah. Ayodhyadam. At the upper portion, that now we're looking at the bottom, the bottom of this chart. Now this is Golokadam. The very upper portion of Haridam or Vaikuntha realm is Ayodhya. See? Down here. That's Ayodhya. And then at the top, there's a nice image. We're not going to focus on this for now. This is Golokadam. Here's the inner region of Golokadam. There's Radha and Krishna in a hexagonal star. There's more about that hexagonal star. Then these petals of the lotus, they're the abodes of the gopis, the 8 principal gopis, and so forth and so on. The abodes where Krishna performs his pastimes with his devotees. That's Goloka. Now, here's Jiva Goswami's commentary. Remember, I mentioned, I'll say it a few more times. He's one of my heroes. And he made a commentary on Brahma Samhita because a copy of Brahma Samhita was found or discovered by Lord Chaitanya in the course of his South India travels. He went way down on the far southern western side of India, a temple called Adikeshava Temple. He heard from the Brahmanas there reciting Srimad Brahma Samhita. He asked for a copy. He stayed for a while. They made him a hand copy, and he carried that hand copy with him. And when he brought it back, along with another book, he gave copies to all the devotees who understood, let's make copies. And this is bona fide. And the first one to make commentary was Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami's commentary on this text 43, there's the Sanskrit, and the translation reads, the Shambhu Tattva, or the principle of Lord Shiva. Now, from the very beginning, I put Shiva Tattva as the topic for this evening. You could also say Shambhu Tattva. It's quite okay. It's just another name of Lord Shiva. The Shambhu Tattva, or the principle of Lord Shiva, is like a lamp covered with carbon because of his being in charge of the mode of ignorance. The illumination from such a lamp is very minute, therefore, the power of Lord Shiva cannot compare to that of the Vishnu principle or Vishnu Tattva. So, like Lord Vishnu, but not Lord Vishnu. A lamp, but a lamp that is covered by carbon, and therefore, again, Lord Shiva's position is marginal. So just to say it again, I found a nice image. There's a lamp that has glass covering, and the glass covering has some carbon coated on the inside of the glass covering. So Shambhu Tattva, the Lord Shiva, is like a lamp covered with carbon. And the illumination from such a lamp is very minute, therefore the power of Shiva can compare to that of Vishnu principle. He's in the position, he's not a Jiva, he's not Vishnu, he's between, marginal. Just like his abode, Mahidam, in between this and that. Okay, take a deep breath. Because we're going to go on to another topic.
Can we also have Q&As on this little section?
Sure. That sounds good. We won't get too far, but that's okay. It's better to digest. Comments or questions so far? Yes?
Questions from me.
So is he, from what I think I'm understanding, is he kind of like a transitional Vishnu? Like, it's like kind of sort of transitioning into the material world?
No, you're using the verb transition, but it's not exactly transition. It's a tattva in between. It's a tattva, or a truth, or reality, or existence. It's in between, or marginal.
What would be the, I guess, purpose?
Surprises.
Where would Brahmajyoti fall in the Dham before Dham's edition?
It's in Vaikuntha Dham. Yeah, it's in Haridam. It's in Haridam. It's the abode of, within that vastness of the Jyoti, or Brahma Jyoti, there's Vaikuntha planets. The Vaikuntha planets are resting in the Brahmajyoti. So it's of that Haridam realm. I'm waiting to see if there's something further. Go ahead. I'm ready. I anticipated it.
So the example of the penumbra was very useful.
Say it again?
The example of the penumbra was very useful.
Yes, it is. It's,
And it also seems to make sense with the example of the land covered in carbon.
yes.
But I'm wondering about how does that compare to the Shambhu? If he's residing in the light, if Vishnu's
Yes, he's not residing in. He is the glance. So let's do it again. He is the glance. So creation is cyclical. Let's go to the part of there's cosmic annihilation, and during that cycle of cosmic annihilation, there's two things. There's the totality of all living entities, which we discussed this morning, which is without limit, innumerable living entities, and all those innumerable living entities are within the body of Mahavishnu during cosmic annihilation. That's one of the two things. And the other of the two things is the material nature that was comprising the creation. That material that was comprising creation collapses, or it just takes on another name. And the other name is Pradhan. Pradhan means the totality of material nature that's undifferentiated into elements. The differentiation collapses. It just becomes a house that's all merged together. It's everything there, but it's not differentiated out into parts. And creation happens when there's two functions. It's time for creation. So Mahavishnu, meditating upon the totality of living entities that are within him, he doesn't do anything. He just has an ida, or a desire, that they should enjoy instead of this covered condition. Good thing is, Ravi, his consort, and then for Lakshmi, the consort of Mahavishnu and Mahadevi. Mahadevi knows the desire of her. He wants, they should become happy. They're not happy, they're just in deep sleep. So she entrusts both the totality of living entities to the glance of Mahavishnu, which is Shambhu. The glance of Mahavishnu is Shambhu. She entrusts all those living entities, all the innumerable living entities, to the glance of Vishnu. And what he glancing at over there, in a distance, is this Pradhan. So I'll repeat. What's Pradhan? It's the totality of the material energy, undifferentiated. Sometimes Pradhan is also called Chaya. Chaya means shadow. She's the shadow of Rama. Who is Rama? Rama is the internal potency, and the shadow of the internal potency is Pradhan, or Chaya Devi, or as we saw in that poster, Durga. Durga is manifest, undifferentiated, it's on. Looking at this cloud of the material energy, saying she's also wanting service. Right now she doesn't have anything. Let me give her service. He doesn't do anything. He just has this Icha. Maybe is giving her some service. What's that service? The glance of Mahavishnu carries, Shambhu carries, Lord Shiva in that feature of Shambhu carries the two things, the totality of living entities and time energy. Because you don't have stuff happening without time. And time energy, as we know it, past, present, and future time, is entrusted to Shambhu. She, Rama, is situated in eternal time, but she can transform things, no problem. It becomes time, past, present, and future. So time energy and living entities are impregnated, literally, impregnated in Pradhan. There's Purusha and Prakriti, the Supreme Lord Mahavishnu, and material nature, Pradhan. And that's the primordial impregnation. So I'm making this point because you're going to hear Bhaktisiddhanta's language repeatedly using the term I've mentioned it before, the masculine generative organ. The masculine generative organ, which is another way of describing Shambhu, which is the glance of Mahavishnu, impregnates material nature. And because he impregnates material nature, he, not Vishnu, directly contacts material nature, and that's the transformation. You're using the word transitioning. Yeah, so, but it's not transitional.
Yeah, like in between.
It's in between. It's marginal, but it's a transformation. Because verse 45, which we're going to do tomorrow evening, is milk in touch with a souring agent becomes a milk product, becomes curd or dahi. So Shambhu is the dahi and Vishnu is the milk. Shambhu is nothing but a transformation of Lord Vishnu, but he's not Vishnu, nor is he a jiva. Okay, so does that answer your question? We'll go through this several times. It's no problem. It's a 301 class. I don't mind taking time and making things clear. You want to add something?
First one is between the Virajani,
Yeah,
so Brahmajyoti and the Sadashiva, the light.
yeah.
What is the difference?
Brahma Jyoti, we'll hear, but you're ahead of the presentation will touch that point. But I'll say it now. Okay. And it says it. I'll say it now, and then you can hear it again. So do it that way. In this shloka and Akala of Maheshdam, that the material existence has same existence, nirvana. No term. This also applies to the people. On the end of existence, material side, but they don't know the opulence of the spiritual realm. So this case, the version, Makala Dam Shloka, read please 8. They don't have transcendence. They gaze at the transcendence.
Following question, this question is part of the Sadashiva looks dark.
Yes, yes.
What percentage is dark?
Let's say it's a percentage. It's a portion of which. That's all it says. I don't. Excuse me. He's got the phone. Maybe anything. We don't know. You want to know, and I don't know. It doesn't say, so I can't say. However, no, you don't interrupt. You can hear.
So dark energy and the white.
It doesn't say. It just says that the whole is loka. There's a portion of light and the portion that's covered by
What's causing the cover?
the Lord Shiva, because he's the predominant Tamagun, and it's still it's not Tamagun of data. It's another feature of Lord Shiva. That's the mode of, there's some occurrence like this image here. It's like the lamp covered with carbon. So why? What's the covering feature? The presence of Shiva that has in touch. Shambhu contact on.
That's causes the
Yes. The modes of nature at this stage, to drill down a little bit more, at this stage, the modes of nature haven't been activated because it's pradhan. When Shambhu, or male generative organ, contacts the female, the prakriti, then the modes of nature start to activate again. And he, Lord Shiva, takes charge of tamagun, that darkness. So in Krishna, we're getting this Maheshtam. So it's the part that doesn't disappear, the time explanation, back time explanation, a portion that disappears and a portion that doesn't disappear. And the portion that does disappear is the Jyoti. The portion that does disappear. Should I say it again? You wanted to know the first question, what difference between one is and there's not. So let's say we're right now, called Anda. And that, where we are right now, is in the Mahatattva portion of the vast and spiritual sky. We're relating to the covering portion, the portion. You with me? Right now in the spiritual sky, cosmic annihilation. That's gone. Maheshanam is gone, and it's a spiritual God. It's a different way. You're in an airplane, and then they're saying, fasten your seatbelt, you're going to take off, zoom, zoom, down, you go down the runway, and you're off the ground, you're in the sky, and you keep going up and up and up, and there's a bunch of clouds. When you look out, this side, that side, all you see is clouds, and then you're above the clouds. So when you're in the clouds, are you in the sky? Definitely. But you're not seeing the sky because you're seeing the clouds. Right now, we're in the sky, but we're identifying so much with the clouds and like to have fun. Trying to find happiness by contacting the senses with the objects of that cloud over there or that one over there, and finding happiness when that's not what happiness is. So that which is the distinction between this Buddha or the whole of Maheshanam is they're temporary. Now, it's not. It's subjective, but it's not literal.
So, second question is, the Buddha talk about the jivas.
Yes, 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 yes.
So is that what you're talking about?
Morning class, yes.
So that's what jivas, conditions.
Yes.
So to summarize the Buddha jivas, spirituality,
Yes.
you're saying we're calling it Pradhan.
No, Pradhan is the Prakriti. Pradhan is the material energy. Material energy, and not entities. Living entities are also Prakriti, but they're, the separated portions, as his language. So there's Jiva, there's Prakriti, and conditions to control, they're both. Chapter 7 Bhagavad Gita.
So Pradhan is one, and that's
Pradhan is the undifferentiated totality, the 24 elements before they get differentiated. It's the big warehouse that's all jumbled up. Undifferentiated. When the male generative organ contacts the female material nature, then things start to separate out.
last question is, when you talk about the male generative organ, is that what we consider as Shiva Linga? What
Yes,
is the
exactly.
significance of that?
Exactly, that's what it is. That's what Shiva Linga is, a male generative organ.
Does that take shape and form in the material world? Because there's different.
Yeah, but I don't know other kinds of lingas. I know what Shiva is. It's the male generative organ of Lord Shiva. That's what linga means. Shiva Linga is Shiva's male generative organ. Worship Parvati, place flowers on the male generative organ, but remained undisturbed. Well, the worst person kicks out describing that. Satya told me a book about it. He got it by Shiva Bhakts. How can you say things? But that's what it is. That's what it is. It's the principle, the step back from what it looked like, the principle of Krishna, where the of Lord Mahavishnu, known as Shambhu Kanman. That's what Shiva Linga is.
Just out of curiosity, Maharaj, the whole concept of Linga, we understand from Russian philosophy, but shall I think a comparison about concept?
Yes. That's
The
this.
concept is a little gross.
Oh,
The
yeah.
concept is more subtle. So where is the bridge?
Well, the bridge is depending upon the conscious observer of Shiva Linga. The who respects Shiva. What's the consciousness of that person regarding Lord Shiva? That's the message. And there's different. They'll go back. The covering of the universe, layer of the universe, of false ego, or the personified false ego, worships Lord Shiva. That's what, and there's many. The thing is how you regard Lord Shiva, what's your view on life. The consciousness of how you view, material nature, and how you view the lords of material nature. That's the bridge. Depending, then you'll see this way or a different way.
Specifically to the subtle energy being put in particular spot, is there a particular reason? Shall we examine? To me, it seems a little when we're so actually like watching somebody's
Genital.
how weird are people? So there's got to be somewhere it becomes.
Well, for those who, I was around when the practice began, but my understanding behind practice is acknowledging that Lord Shiva is the primal principle. Do Shaivites understand what I just said, that Lord Shambhu is the glance of Mahavishnu? Probably not, because they have regard for Mahavishnu. We do. They see he's the cause of creation. So the question begins to arose so they're just worshiping Lord Shiva. They don't see the generative Lord Shiva. That's how they see it. I mean, that's my understanding of how they see it. Different views of how they see it. It's a manifestation of Shiva. It goes back and back. And for example, in Ramayana, when the uncertainty will one, but when visited Ravana, he wants Sita the place in the course of his to rescue her. The places they stop is Rameshwaram or Setubandha. And he wants to, the common understanding, which we'll hear different from understanding, is he wants to have killed the Brahmin. So he worships Lord Shiva. The worship of Lord Shiva is in the form of it's still there. It's seen by the worshippers of Lord Shiva, by Shiva. They understand it, the generative order of Shiva. My understanding is they don't. They see Lord Shiva. So you're going to get that feature the long-standing how came from subtle to physical object like that. It's resting upon teaching. This is the teaching that Lord Shiva, the Mahavishnu, that's the manifestation. The language shortly by it's Bhakti Siddhanta's language, not Prabhupada's. He didn't use no language, but Siddhanta was very graphic specific. And he also refers to Shiva as a halo. No, that light comes from the eyes of Mahavishnu. Someone.
So much for your wealth of knowledge. For me to think of everything macrocosmically is like just
I don't know. My purpose is to prove this about or principle. The action to body. That I could say it probably not. You say the truth.
So you say this is very great. Would that be what the material science here for Big Bang?
Maybe once on time. Maybe. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make it. Creation. The part is and the part is the action and details of the body. Golden seeds. Seeds come from his comments. Inferential comments are things he can commemorate. Thing to mice of the bad. It's a universe ending from the and the then the type of period struggling your accent. Questioning them. That's the idea. Anyway. Next night. Listening about language is important to me. They don't make that kind. But back, when I'm sure this is finished. Nor is concentration. To have better creation, have to need to know stuff. It's creating a false ego. But that's not happen. You have to identify with happy. That's also that's yes, for eyes. It's correct. It's just that one. It's for anyone or your head running. Lord, is in the ground. My message is follows. I make the files. He's in the and when people just he's acting else with there. But it's not five like this. It's the functionality knowledge was five. What's coming up? Shiva's not your question. Didn't have a body. Didn't have your body. Didn't have a body. Now you never argued. Make us see this rumor where it says here's such a person that says something else.
Some sort of
Focus.